Look at that. He's following us. We can't just leave him here to die. Margot's voice quivered with emotion as she witnessed the situation. A trembling figure struggled to keep up with the departing car. His eyes, two pools of desperation in a sea of tangled fur, carried a plea that transcended the barrier between species. Each faltering step on wounded paws told a story of cruel abandonment, as the animal gathered his last strength in a desperate pursuit. What had driven this creature to such behavior in the middle of a deserted road? This story goes beyond what it seems. Please subscribe to our channel now and leave a comment. How many pets do you have, or have you had in the past? The sun was rising shyly on the horizon, spreading a soft golden light across the fields as Rafael drove his car along the dirt road that wound between the farms. It was a crisp summer morning, with dew still glistening on the surrounding vegetation. Another day beginning, Rafael thought, lowering the window to feel the damp, invigorating morning air caress his face. On the passenger seat, the bags of animal feed he had just purchased in town gave off that characteristic smell of corn and bran. The dust kicked up by the tires formed a golden cloud behind the vehicle, almost magical under the day's nascent light. It was then that his eyes caught an unusual movement at the roadside. A small, trembling figure stood out against the tall grass. Rafael instinctively slowed down, squinting to see better through the dust suspended in the air. "What on earth is that?" he muttered to himself, reducing his speed even more. As he approached, the figure took shape and definition. It was a medium-sized dog, its fur completely matted and covered with a thick layer of reddish dust. The animal seemed to hesitate between approaching the road or retreating into the brush. Rafael brought the car to a complete stop and observed the dog for a few moments. There was something deeply troubling in those eyes, a gaze that seemed to carry all the world's sadness, but also a silent plea, almost human in its intensity. "Good heavens," whispered Rafael, feeling a tightness in his chest. With slow, calculated movements, he parked on the makeshift shoulder and turned off the engine. Years of experience with abandoned animals had taught him to be cautious. Dogs that had lived on the streets could be unpredictable, frightened, or even aggressive out of fear. He got out of the car, keeping his movement smooth, without any sudden gestures. The dog watched his every move with absolute attention, as if its life depended on this moment. "Hey there, buddy," Rafael called in a low, melodious voice. "Are you doing all right?" To his surprise, instead of backing away as he expected, the dog took a hesitant step in his direction. Its entire body was trembling, not just from fear, but probably from hunger and exhaustion. The tail, barely distinguishable in the tangle of dirty fur, attempted a timid, almost imperceptible wag. Rafael remembered the dog biscuits he always kept in the glove compartment for situations just like this. He turned back to the car, grabbed the package, and took out a treat. "You must be hungry, aren't you?" he said, crouching down and extending his hand with the biscuit. The dog looked at the food, then at Rafael, as if assessing whether he could be trusted. There was an urgency in its movements that spoke of days, perhaps weeks of hunger. Finally, it took a few more steps and, with surprising gentleness for an animal so visibly desperate, took the biscuit from Rafael's hand. "That's right, buddy. Go ahead and eat," Rafael encouraged, feeling a wave of compassion seeing how the animal devoured the treat in seconds. Rafael knew well what this encounter meant. He lived in this rural region precisely because of his love for nature and animals, but he also knew the sad reality of abandonment. His own home, a small farm on the outskirts of the village, had already become a refuge for dozens of rescued animals. Dogs, cats, horses, and even donkeys, all survivors of human cruelty or neglect. "Let's see if you're really alone or just lost your way," he murmured, more to himself than to the dog. He rose slowly and went to the trunk of his car, where he always kept some bags of dog food. He opened one and poured a generous portion on the ground, a few yards from the road, in a safe spot. "Come on, help yourself," he said, stepping back to give the animal space. The dog approached the food cautiously and began to devour the kibble with a voracity that confirmed his suspicions. This dog had been starving for a long time. While the animal ate, Rafael surveyed the surroundings, looking for signs of other dogs or any nearby house from which it might have escaped. But there was only the deserted road, empty fields, and silence occasionally broken by the wind rustling through the tree leaves. This dog had been abandoned. There was no doubt about it. "Well, at least you've had a good meal now," said Rafael when the dog finished the food. "I hope you can find your way back home, if you have one." With a sigh, Rafael returned to the car. He got in, started the engine, and began to drive away slowly. His eyes kept going to the rearview mirror, where he could see the dog standing in the same spot, watching him leave. He had gone only a few yards when he noticed. The dog had begun to follow him, trotting with visible effort along the dirt road. Its small paws moved as quickly as they could, and there was a touching determination in its struggle not to lose sight of the car. Rafael stopped again and turned to his wife, Margot, who had been silently filming the whole scene with her cell phone, tears already glistening in her eyes. "Look, honey, he's following us," said Rafael, feeling his throat tighten with emotion. "Now I just don't have the heart to leave him there and hope he can find his way home." Margot nodded, unable to speak through her tears. Rafael got out of the car again and walked toward the dog, which stopped, wagging its tail with more vigor now, as if understanding that its silent plea had been comprehended. "If you want to come, then come," said Rafael, kneeling down to be at the animal's level. "We'll find a new beginning together." He extended his hand, and this time the dog approached without hesitation, allowing Rafael to stroke its dirty and matted ears. There was gratitude in those eyes, a gratitude so pure and profound that it made Rafael swallow hard to contain his emotion. "Honey, what name should we give him?" he asked Margot, who was also approaching. "I want something strong and, at the same time, cheerful." Margot observed the dog for a few moments, noting how, despite all the dirt and thinness, there was an almost noble dignity in its posture, a resilience that deserved to be honored. "Pippo," she finally answered with a gentle smile. "We'll call him Pippo." Rafael smiled, feeling that the name perfectly suited this little survivor. With care, he picked Pippo up in his arms, surprised at how light he was, and placed him in the trunk of the car, which he had specially adapted for transporting the animals he rescued. "Welcome to the family, Pippo," he said, carefully closing the door. As they resumed their journey, Rafael knew that their first stop would be the veterinary clinic. He couldn't bring Pippo home without ensuring he was healthy and posed no risk to the other animals he already sheltered. But looking through the rearview mirror and seeing how the dog had already fallen into a deep sleep, as if finally feeling safe after days or weeks of uncertainty, Rafael was sure of one thing: Pippo was already part of his family. The nearest veterinary clinic was almost 20 miles away, at the entrance to the village. When Rafael finally parked in front of the establishment, the sky was completely covered with gray clouds, and only the modest sign, Santa Clara Veterinary Clinic, stood out on the simple facade. "I hope Dr. Estella is still seeing patients," muttered Rafael, looking at his watch, which showed it was almost 1 in the afternoon. Margot got out first and went to the door, knocking gently on the glass. Seconds later, a woman in a white coat appeared, her face opening into a warm smile as she recognized the visitors. "Rafael! Margot! What brings you here?" asked Dr. Estella, opening the door and inviting them in. "We found another abandoned dog on the road, Estella," explained Rafael, returning to the car to fetch Pippo. "He's in pretty bad shape." When Rafael returned carrying the dog in his arms, Dr. Stella's expression turned serious. Her attentive eyes were already assessing the animal's condition even from a distance. "Poor creature," she whispered, indicating the examination room. "Let's take a look at him right away." The examination room was small but impeccably clean and organized. Dr. Estella moved with energy and precision, demonstrating the competence of someone who, despite her youth, completely mastered her profession. She was known throughout the region not only for her skill, but for never refusing care to an animal in need, regardless of the hour or the owner's ability to pay. "Place him here on the table, please," she instructed, already putting on gloves and preparing her instruments. Rafael carefully placed Pippo on the examination table. The dog, who had awakened during the journey, was trembling again, his wide eyes scanning the unfamiliar environment. "Easy there, buddy," murmured Rafael, keeping a gentle hand on the animal's back. "Dr. Estella is going to take care of you now." With gentle movements and reassuring words, Dr. Stella began the examination. Her experienced hands moved over Pippo's body, checking every detail, while she murmured observations to herself. Severe malnutrition, dehydration, tick infestation, possible mange. With each new discovery, the veterinarian's face grew more concerned. When she reached Pippo's paws, she paused longer, examining them carefully. "The paw pads are completely worn down," she explained to Rafael and Margot. "This dog has walked for many miles, probably for days on end." While Dr. Estella continued the examination, Pippo remained surprisingly calm, as if understanding that those hands were there to help him. Only occasionally did he emit a low whimper when a more painful spot was touched. "We're going to need to do a complete cleaning Administer the first vaccinations and remove all these ticks, Dr. Estella finally said. I also recommend shaving him completely. The fur is so matted that it might be hiding wounds I can't see. Rafael nodded, fully trusting the veterinarian's judgment. Do whatever is necessary, Estella. We want to give him the best possible chance. Almost 2 hours passed before the examination room door opened again. Dr. Estella appeared, and behind her came a dog that Rafael and Margot barely recognized. Pippo was completely transformed. His fur, now clipped close to his body, revealed a medium-sized dog, much thinner than he had appeared when covered by the massive tangled hair. His exposed skin showed some wounds and irritations, but was clean. Most impressive, however, was his expression. His eyes seemed more alive, more present, as if a weight had been removed not only from his body, but also from his soul. Here's our patient, announced Dr. Estella with a smile. Much lighter and more comfortable now. Pippo, upon seeing Rafael, wagged his tail with renewed enthusiasm, approaching with steps that were still weak, but decidedly more steady. Hello there, buddy, exclaimed Rafael, crouching down to receive him. Just look at you. You're unrecognizable. Dr. Estella handed Rafael a small bag with medications. Antibiotics for the skin infection, medicine for internal parasites, and an ointment for his paws. Apply according to the instructions. He'll need special feeding over the next few weeks to regain the lost weight. And plenty of love, of course. Rafael thanked her deeply, paying for the consultation and adding a generous donation for Dr. Estella's work with other abandoned animals. As they left the clinic, with Pippo once again settled in the car, Rafael and Margot exchanged a look of hope. The road would be long, but the first and most important step had been taken. Let's head home, said Rafael softly, looking through the rear-view mirror at Pippo, who was already falling asleep again in the back seat, his body finally free from the discomfort of tangled fur and parasites. It was time to introduce him to his new family. The afternoon sun was already beginning to lose its strength when Rafael's car finally turned onto the dirt road leading to his property. Pippo, who had slept during almost the entire journey, awoke with the more intense jostling of the vehicle on the uneven road. His eyes, now more alert, observed with curiosity the landscape passing by the window, verdant fields, rustic fences, and in the distance the outline of a simple house surrounded by leafy trees. We're here, buddy, said Rafael, looking through the rear-view mirror and smiling to see the small dog with his ears perked up, completely attentive. This is your new home. As they approached, a commotion began to form in front of the property. From a distance, it was possible to distinguish the outlines of several dogs running back and forth, some standing by the fence, others jumping and barking in a symphony of welcome. Looks like the welcoming committee is already in position, remarked Margot, smiling at the excitement of the other rescued animals. Rafael slowed down as he approached the gate. The scene was impressive even for someone who was already accustomed. 27 dogs of all sizes, colors, and breeds, all rescued from situations of abandonment or mistreatment, formed an animated audience to receive the new family member. I hope it's not too overwhelming for him, murmured Rafael, concerned about Pippo's reaction to so many dogs at once. He parked the car in the packed earth yard and turned off the engine. Immediately, the dogs approached, sniffing the air with curiosity, wagging their tails in anticipation. These weren't barks of alarm or aggression. Those animals, all with similar stories of suffering, seemed to perfectly understand what was happening. Let's take it slow, Rafael said to Margot as he opened the car door. Let them approach naturally. Rafael opened the passenger door where Pippo was waiting, observing everything with wide eyes. Come on, Pippo, Rafael called softly. Everything's fine. These are your new brothers and sisters. Pippo got down and stood at the entrance door, while Rafael opened the padlock. There was a mixture of fear and curiosity in his eyes. Finally, with care, Rafael placed him among the others. The next moment was magical. Instead of confusion, the dogs approached Pippo with surprising gentleness. There were no aggressive barks, no sudden advances. One by one, they came up to sniff the newcomer, maintaining a respectful distance, as if they understood his fragility. Pippo, initially tense, stayed close to Rafael's legs but didn't show panic. His body trembled slightly, but his tail began to attempt a timid movement in response to the greetings. Just look at that, whispered Margot, filming the scene with her cell phone. They know. Somehow, they understand. In the minutes that followed, Pippo gradually gained confidence. He still kept close to Rafael, but now allowed the other dogs to smell him and circle around him. Let's show him the rest of the property, suggested Rafael, beginning to walk toward the house. Rafael's farm was a true sanctuary. Besides the 27 dogs, it housed 6 horses rescued from mistreatment, 2 elderly donkeys that had been abandoned after years of forced labor, and an aviary where more than 100 rehabilitated seagulls were recovering before being returned to nature. As they walked through the grounds, Pippo observed everything with growing interest. His steps, previously hesitant, became more steady as he explored his new home. When they passed by the pasture where the horses were grazing peacefully, Pippo stopped, watching the large animals with a mixture of fascination and caution. "Don't worry," laughed Rafael. "They're as gentle as lambs. Soon you'll be running between their legs without any fear." In the days that followed, Pippo's adaptation surprised everyone with its speed. By the second day, he was already exploring the grounds with more confidence. On the third day, Rafael found him playing shyly with some of the younger dogs, attempting short races across the lawn. A week after his arrival, Pippo already looked like a different dog. His fur was beginning to grow back, now revealing a caramel brown that shone under the sun. His wounds were healing quickly, and he was gaining weight each day, giving way to a healthier and stronger body. The true beauty of that story wasn't just in Pippo's physical recovery, but in the rebirth of his spirit. Each wag of his tail, each playful romp in the garden, each confident look was a victory against the abandonment and fear that had once dominated his existence. And so, under the roof of that farm, transformed into a sanctuary among friendly barks, distant neighs, and the soft rustling of leaves in the wind, Pippo had found much more than shelter. He had found a home, a family, and the chance to write, with steps now firm and confident, a new story filled with love and hope. "Good night, Pippo," whispered Rafael, leaning down to stroke the ears of the sleeping little dog. "Welcome to your new life." What about you? Have you ever had a moment when an animal's gaze completely changed your day, or even your life? Please share your experience here in the comments. And if you love animals, click the like button and subscribe to our channel. Together, let's reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. When you subscribe, you help us continue posting stories that can influence this world to take better care of our animals. I'll give you a moment to like and subscribe. Now imagine a group of rescuers facing the suffocating heat of an endless afternoon, kneeling around what remained of a puppy on the brink of death. On the scorching asphalt, you could barely detect the breathing of that small being, skin clinging to bones, eyes nearly lifeless, and a thread of life about to break. With each passing second, the question, how to decide between hope and farewell? Could this fragile heart overcome the impossible? Or were we witnessing the final moments of an innocent life? Are you ready to dive into a breathtaking story? Then don't waste a moment. Click on the video now and discover every detail of this remarkable turnaround. Stories that touch the soul are just one click away. I'll see you in the next video.